You're listening to the RE Social Podcast with your hosts, Andrew and Vince from OnV Invest. For more information, go to onvinvest.com.
What's up, you guys? This is Andrew.
Vince
Of OnV Invest. This is the RE Social Podcast. We're going to talk today about in-state versus out-of-state investing, and it kind of came up because I actually just got an email from basically a new client, potential partner. We'll see what he wants to do. And he was talking about, hey, man, I was talking with one person about going in-state and all that, and he's like, stay in-state. And the other guy was like, well, you can go out-of-state too, and here's what your options are. And so I realized there's just a lot of information to be had, and I think we could provide you guys a lot of value by just kind of discussing that for 10 to 20 minutes here in this podcast. So, Vince, do you want to I want to hear let's just start with just Vince's take on in-state versus out-of-state, like the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, so if you look at investing, right, you can either be in state or you can be in out-of-state, right? So the first question will be, why would someone consider that, right? Mm-hmm. So the number one reason would be maybe the politics of the state is not favorable for landlords. That's mm-hmm. one. Maybe the return on investment or ROI might not be favorable in a very appreciation-heavy market. So maybe mm-hmm. you need some cash flow to defend the property against, some mm-hmm. kind of downturn and stuff, right? So that'll be the number one reason people want to go out of state. So if the question is directed more towards should one start with an out-of-state investing or in-state investing, that's a very complicated question, right? Yeah. Because if you're going to do something for the first time, does it make sense to start at 2,000 miles away from your home? Right? What do you know about investing that you're so confident that you could do it in Georgia when you live in California, right?
Yeah.
But can you do it? Of course you could do it, but it's challenging.
Right. Yeah. It's inherently challenging and definitely would be more frightening. Now that we've been in this for a while and we did do it in state for almost all the deals. Granted, it was like a bit of a drive. It was a nice I had peace of mind in knowing, all right, worst case scenario, if I got to roll up my sleeves, I will. And I did. Not because I had to, per se, but you could argue maybe I had to because, we kind of went through some contractors.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate enough to have my stepdad as a handyman extraordinaire. And so we would just go up and sometimes just do it ourselves. So there was that, and that's all part of the in-state benefit for sure, is being able to do that. But, out of state, we could have pulled it off. It just would have been scarier, much more difficult, and we may have had to fly out of state a couple times.
If Quincy was out of state, we would have sold it within 3 months.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. And then we would have been out of the investing game. So if you look at our own example, Quincy, the first property we bought, we had a lot of problems with it. We've talked about it briefly, but we could drive to it, right? Rock Khalif, one of the popular podcast hosts, he has cash flow. A lifetime cash flow, the podcast, he says invest in your backyard, which is anything 2 hours from your home that you can drive to, right? Bakersfield is about 2 hours from our house, right? So technically we were more comfortable because it was like, hey, what's going on? We can drive and go see. But if it's in Georgia, you have to fly.
Yeah, I'm very, now I'm thinking about it, I'm actually very grateful that first property we learned so many lessons on was in state. Because if it was, you're right, it would have just been like, we may not have even kept investing.
Yeah, we might have.
Straight up, I'm like, no, screw you, I'm in stocks, bro.
Yeah. I only buy Bitcoin now.
I only buy Bitcoin.
We might have to get Kevin again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so in hindsight, actually it's quite a blessing that we did stay in state because we probably wouldn't be sitting on, what we're sitting on now in terms of net worth. I can definitely say this. If somebody asked me, hey, this is my first property, an investment property. I don't know if I should go in-state or out-of-state. I've been hearing all these sources. My take is I would definitely tell them, well, first of all, are you ready to start a new business? Let's just start. Just forget out-of-state, in-state. You're ready to start a new business because that's what that is. That's investing is not. I don't find there's almost anything. I've never seen anything that's actually passive income, with the exception of the people who partner with us, which is literally the only passive income I've ever seen anyone earn. Is
like my sister and your mom.
Yes. My mom doesn't even know what's happening. Yeah. She gets a check every month. She's all this equity. She doesn't even know how much money she's making. She doesn't understand. And that's how passive it is, and in fact, it's nice that we get to take the brunt of any issues with tenants or whatever. And they only know whenever they ask because it's fine. We're still just taking care of them, which is really nice. And I'd like to be on the other end of that eventually. But I like that we're learning. I like that we're hustling. And so, but going back to what I was originally saying, is someone said, hey, I want to invest. I just tell them to their face, I'm like, hey, point blank, you should just give us money. I'm not, I'm telling you advice I would give myself if I was in your position. And because you don't know anything and it's a new business.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you have the time? Do you have the resources? Can you take a loss and like stay motivated and keep going? You could be a gangster. You could absolutely win at this game then. But know that you're going to have to educate yourself, grab some mentors like us, at least you have that, which we didn't really have. And you got to have a lot of hustle and drive. And unfortunately, a lot of people end up not making it through that. I've talked to many people. My uncle's one of them. We met some guys out in the Orlando convention who were just like, dude, threw their hands up on a triplex after. Was it a triplex? I'm talking about.
Which one are you talking about?
Remember old Bobby?
Oh, Bobby Jacob.
I call him Ricky
Bobby Jacob.
Yeah. He's awesome.
Ricky Bobby.
But yeah, him and his wife got involved in one, and they just kind of, dude, this is too much.
Yeah.
Because there's so many ways to go wrong with this particular business. Point is, I'm rabbit trailing. I'm sorry, but hopefully it's a value. But what I want to kind of end with and come back to you on is I would make sure that they were ready to commit first. And if you're not really ready to commit and roll up your sleeves and take some hits in the face, just partner with us. You're welcome in advance. You don't even know how good you're going to have it. Now, if you wanted to go into it, now it's talk. Okay, so you want to do it. Awesome. I would say go in state every single time. Even though we live in a very politically blue state, which, I'm not going to get into the politics of all that kind of stuff, but it does make it more difficult for guys like us. Just we're what you consider a mom and pop shop, really. It makes it very difficult to be successful in certain ways, especially if you have tenants who, like we've had a squatter.
Yeah. So I mean, we don't even have to go into politics, but it's just a fact, right? We'll just use our example. Our tenants just during the pandemic owes more than $20,000, right? Mm-hmm. So whether it's the whatever state it is, it's if they're not serving you, it's a problem, right? So you don't want to put yourself through situations where you're not going to be compensated, or the state has certain laws and things to affect you. Now, can we make money in California? Of course, all of our properties are here, right? Almost 99% of it. So we do make money. The key with California is you have to be very smart about it. You either have to go, if you're going C-class housing, which is lower level, you want to get it tied up with the government. You maybe collect checks from Section 8 housing, stuff like that, so you're covered. Guaranteed or you go a little bit higher. Right. So, people who have something to lose, like, if I'm renting, I've been renting for 10 years, right? We own so many properties, we still rent. You think I'm going to miss my rent payment? No, my credit is like 780. I don't want that to go to 600, right? Right. So I'm not going to, I have something to lose. But if your credit is already 600, what's a couple of knocks for you,
nothing to lose, it doesn't matter.
And then the government comes in and tells, hey, man, you don't really have to pay rent.
Yeah.
Evil landlords, let's just buy cars, right? Yeah. So who is the evil person, right? The guy who can afford rent and who's, taxes and bills and stuff we're paying for. Yeah. So. Yeah.
So in our experience, that's actually a nice like micro piece of advice right there for, if I wish you were telling me that like 5 years ago. Hey, well, guess what? If you're going to involve yourself in the state of California, really get savvy with the laws and really watch your properties like a hawk. Because if someone stays in there for more than 2 weeks, guess what? They have renter's rights, whether they're on the lease or not, which is crazy to me. And if I'm just being honest, man, I just think that's just not right. Like, what are you doing? That's crazy. So it's very skewed towards the tenants, unfortunately. And so for me, I would say if it's your first or an early investment, definitely stay in your backyard, and if that backyard is a very tenant-friendly state, just really educate yourself. And if you get property management, cool, be on top of what's happening, And that's the benefit of having it in state or in your backyard. You can go drive by it, Unfortunately, we had a squatter issue as well, and weren't even savvy to it until it was too late, And so you gotta babysit the babysitters, manage the managers. So like I said, we got into this thinking it was going to be mostly passive as well. Hasn't been passive, And so, but now going through what we've gone through and having all these little kind of okay, now I'm seeing what's happening when it comes to involving yourself in California, which I still want to. I want to go buy everything in IE right now, but I want to buy in nicer areas, which is what we're doing. So we learned that the hard way. So I think that's the best advice ever is like, well, government section, like get Section 8 if it's like not a great area, if that's all you can do or can afford in the state, or go to a nicer area and get some good property management, and hopefully it's as passive as some of those properties in IE are for us now.
Yeah, we have 3 Section 8s, never missed a payment.
Yeah,
in
exactly.
almost 4 years.
Income. So, yeah, that's interesting. It's like it's even micro nuance. It's so tricky, all the advice.
So going back to like what you were talking about earlier is, there's 2 things we're talking about. One is out of state versus, in state. Now, if you go beyond that is, do you even want to do this or do you want to partner with someone, right? I know we've been saying, give us your money, right? That'll be the easiest. But you can also give your uncle money. You can also give Grant Cardone money. Give somebody who's doing it, right?
Yes.
So if this is a new business, this is what I tell people. I think this is the most, if there's only one thing you can learn from this, I would say this is the soundbite, right? So if you're a high income earner, let's say like, for example, like my best friend, JK, right? He's a high income guy, right? Is it in his best interest to spend the next 3 years to figure out how to operate, buy, and then sell a duplex? No, he will be a moron to do that because his value is so high. Like he's making, let's say, $500 an hour. Yeah. The stuff we're doing is not worth that much for the first few years. Yeah, sure. After 2-3 years, it could be worth that much. Yeah. But for the first 3 years, he just lost $1.5 million because that's how much money he would have made, right? Right. Now, on the other hand, if you're working, if you're bagging bags in Walmart or, you work like you make $20 an hour, this is definitely something you should do. Yeah. You shouldn't really give me your money. You should actually try to figure out with the limited amount of money you have.
That. Go home, read books, educate yourself, listen to podcasts like this,
Yeah. Because if I was like JK or Ryan or someone who's making high income, I don't want to do this. I'll just find people like us,
bro. That's my goal.
Yeah, I'll just give people money like to.
I always want to invest, but like if we get a chunk of change and it's like something opens up, I'm absolutely like open to, having some nice passive situation eventually when we're like, I don't know, but I have a lot of drive and a lot of hustle for me. I really love to get up and bark at the walls and make things happen. So I don't mind. But who knows? Maybe, 15, 20 years down the line, I'm like, I'm not doing any of that.
Exactly.
At that point, I would consider it for sure.
So going back to the topic we were discussing is out of state versus in state, right? So where do we leave at?
Well, I want to talk about what I like doing now. So let's just kind of talk about what we're doing. So we're actually right now, you guys, this is January of 2022. We're actually considering now pulling out of some of the properties that, some of the earliest properties that were in kind of the rougher areas that it's been a thorn in our side. It just, maybe not 100% of the time, but when problems arise and we get that email from our property management, it's like, okay, yeah, it's one of those properties again. So we're talking about offloading those, and selling them to some rich guy who actually wants cash flow and who's willing to actively, be there to manage them, because they're still great properties and they're income producing. It's just we're moving on.
It's not really worth my time right at this point. So we'll give the listeners some kind of numbers so they understand what's California, what's in state, what's out of state, right? So we bought this first property in for about $250,000. It's a triplex, right? Not a great area, right? It's been 3 years. It's worth, I would say, closer to $450,000. Definitely cash flows. It's management intensive, right? That's it's just Drew and I. We own that property. We don't have any partners on that. The second property is a duplex. We bought it for, I believe, $170,000.
Which one?
This is Warren.
The Warren. Okay.
That has one Section 8 tenant, right? And then it's been about 2 years, 2.5 years. We bought it for $170, I think, and then it's worth probably $260, I would say, but maybe $270, right?
Let's just say $100.
Yeah, that's so another $100K, and then the last one is with we have it with K1 was the Lake Street, and that's we bought it for, I don't know, we are in it for maybe $160, $170. I would say worth, mid 200s, right? Something like that. Yeah. So we're looking at, $800,000-$900,000 of properties, which we can sell, maybe collect $300K, like a cool cash. We can take that money and buy something here, like a single family, like what I might buy, right? And then that's it. That's all we did with that money. And then I bought a car, like a car, because I'm a moron, right? Because I'm a true American, that's what I would do.
Straight up, though.
I would just spend all my money on a toy, and then I'll have a boat, and then I'll rent or buy a home, right?
That's a real thing.
That's actually.
I'm like thinking of all those friends, which you know what, respect, like your thing.
No,
no
respect for them. No, they're losers.
Your thing, but it's not. I mean, it's not sustainable.
So that's not why we were doing this. We didn't struggle for 3 years for me to buy a car, right? Mm-hmm. So what we're going to do is I spend a lot of time in Florida trying to identify markets and stuff. So I have a lot of people in place in Tampa and Jacksonville. I do like Tampa a lot. So we could take this, and then let's say I go to my sister, my cousins, or JK or Vivek, all these guys, and I say, hey, whatever investment you guys do, we'll match it, right? So let's say we pick up $100K from each. Yep. We throw in $300K, right? $600K.
Go big.
I can double our entire portfolio in one deal. Yep. It's taking me 4 years to do that, right?
So if you're in Tampa, Orlando area, and you're trying to sell something that's 20 units, just reach out to Vince at onvinvestments.com.
Yeah, we'll pick it up.
We might just make an offer on it for real.
So I mean that's the play. So now tying it back to in-state and out-of-state, it's like we are going. We worked on the appreciation here. The market cycle is good. We sell at a high. We pick that up and then we go invest it somewhere else.
Yep.
Where they actually won't destroy us because they don't think landlords are evil in Florida.
Yep. Straight up. Yeah. It's just much more landlord friendly. I noticed that a lot of people, when they think landlord, they think like this mogul, like rich, Trump figure or something, but it's a lot of them are just guys like us.
I think 60% of landlords are mom and pops, they call it.
Isn't that great?
They own less than 5 years.
That's beautiful, man. Like,
yeah, that's the American dream. That's why I got here.
Absolutely the American dream. And it's the easiest way to really capture the American dream and to change your life. Just owning real estate in general. It's like when literally I had a buddy of mine called me up randomly saying he went to some open houses. He's probably going to listen to this. So you know who you are. And I thought he was going to buy something. I was like, oh, I'm excited for you, man. Congrats, And he's like, oh, no, I'm renting. I'm like, you go to open houses to rent? I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't even know
I'm a realtor and I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. So you're renting. I can't really help you there. It's not my game. But, I mean, why don't you consider buying, And he had all these excuses, and he just bought a new car, like literally just bought a new car. I'm like, okay, you know what? Yeah, you already messed up, bro. You should have talked to me before you bought the car, before you decided you want to move out and just go pay more rent to somebody else's pocketbook. Become a landlord. Get involved in the game, or at least buy your own place. Get a piece of the American dream. It's attainable. People just don't make a plan. They don't educate themselves. But it's super accessible, even in an expensive county like Orange County. It's accessible. It's doable. Sure, you got to be creative. And in your case right now, Vince is in escrow, so I don't want to jinx it, but I'm not going to say anything else. But
yeah,
maybe sometimes you got to be a little bit creative and, might I say, even aggressive in kind of how you're going for things. But that's how it's done. That's why we're successful. That's why we're doing well. Is because we're not two guys who are just sitting on tons of capital. So we have to be resourceful. We have to be intelligent. We have to be creative. And Vince, most of all, is like the craziest. Like you're just another level, bro. Nasheen and I was on my way here. We're talking about like Vince just goes for it. I'm like, he always says,
borderline insane.
I love it.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to this Florida thing just to kind of tie this point real quick. Is I feel really good about Florida for that reason, for just knowing it's landlord friendly or friendlier, but also because we've been at this for a while, and now I've truly understood the value of the team. I've truly understood the value of just making that phone call and figuring it out, and so I feel really good about it. I know worst case scenario, worst of the worst. All right, we get it on a plane and we go. And luckily, I've set my life up now because I'm a business owner, where I can kind of just do that whenever. So there's also that. And maybe that would be your journey if you're listening to this. Maybe you start with in-state like we did. You build some equity. You maybe realize, okay, well, maybe these properties aren't my favorite. Or maybe they are, and you maybe just refi and you put it into somewhere out of state now that you understand how to put the teams together, property management, contractors, handyman, all that stuff. Now that you understand that, now you can go take that and just take that formula and go anywhere. Now, the issue is you got to find a realtor that you trust, or go walk the area and go onto Google Maps, what you got to do to vet that area and make sure, you actually are. That's the one thing that I think will be something I want to do is if we go on like a 20 unit, I'm flying. Like I'm hopping on a plane. I want to go see it. You know, I want to go walk the neighborhood a little bit, and just check it out. So, you know.
Yeah. So let's give the listeners some key points. Like if they're like, okay, I'm going to go do it either in-state or out-state. So this applies to both. So this is what the first thing you got to do. You got to vet the area first, right? Yep. So you got to look up socioeconomic status. You want to see unemployment. You guys want to write this down. This is going to be deep, right? So you're going to do unemployment rate. You want to see compared to the national rate, what is it? Is it higher or lower? What is the median income? Is it higher or lower? Is population growing? Is population not growing? Is new Whole Foods coming into town? Is Amazon coming into town?
Industries are coming in or out?
Are people leaving this town? This is before you even start analyzing the properties. This is the number one. People start analyzing properties before they even know if the town is actually a ghost town, right? So that's number one. Then either it is out of state or in-state. Out of state, way more. You got to find a realtor that you can trust. That's going to take you like weeks or months. Then you got to qualify yourself. Actually, you have to know, because I'm going to assume most people are going to buy 1 to 4 units at their first deal, right? Now you got to make sure you're lendable. Like, what is your DTI, debt to income ratio? How much loan can you actually get, right? So then you go and find out, okay, I can actually buy, if it's a 4-plex, I can qualify for up to $725,000, right? So you don't have to analyze anything over 725. Then you got to go find the property manager. You got to vet all these property managers, see what is a good one. You got to talk to them, see what the rates are. Are they gouging people, right? Then you got to find, even though you have a property manager, you want to have a general contractor on your hand, right? So that you can do your own repairs. You want to have a handyman for yourself.
By the way, side tip, the property management, that's where they make a lot of their money.
That's where they make all their money, right? So, you know, and they just charged us $548 to put a rope around a hole. I'm like, dude, like this is, who do I have to murder today for me to, you know?
Your emails when they come in,
I'm just like,
I'm like dying, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, because you just don't care. You're just like,
care.
What is happening? How is this $500?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
I've seen the hole.
I've seen the yeah. So yeah, I mean, okay, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
So then we finished with the handyman, right? And then, you know, just these are the basic things you have to do.
Lenders as well. Did you mention lenders?
Which one? Lenders, lenders is number 2. Yeah,
you know?
lenders number 2.
And then, by the way, like you got to go see the area. You
got to go see the area. So, you got to go, even though you analyzed all of this on paper on Zillow.com, right? And then you have to know how much, what is it valued at?
Check
you know how
rent rolls. Yeah, there's so much.
How do you know what to pay? Do you guys know?
Until you started breaking it down, I was like, oh my God, yeah, that's right. We do all that's like all part of it, which is again why I always tell people, dude, if you're gonna throw $50K into the wind, do it, but just know you're getting into a new industry because this is not even everything. Do
you have
this
money?
Is not even. This is before you bought the deal.
Yeah. Do you have money if the HVAC fails? Do you have money? Like last year, we spent $100,000 in repairs and capex. Do you have $100,000 to just repair and do capex? You know, most people don't. You know, since we have enough properties, we can swing it. You know, or I'm doing some crazy credit card tricks to you know, make it work.
Fortunately, you know, no matter what, I'll be honest. If I can give you guys a glimmer of hope, if you decide not to partner or invest with somebody who knows what they're doing. The one thing that you have going for you, if you are a complete idiot, is the appreciation, you know. And then bringing this back to in-state California, the appreciation is just it's silly, and it's exacerbated by, you know, this whole pandemic and interest rates being low and lack of supply. So, you know, you might be able to survive it and come out clean and maybe break even, but you know, unfortunately, that's not how the rich get rich.
Yeah,
you know, so. That's the one thing that you could. That's how great real estate is, though. Is you can partner with somebody who's maybe competent at what they're doing and doing a great job, good track record. Even if they mess it up a little bit, you could probably still come out really clean. That's how great this game is.
It's, you know, it's assuming that you just listen to what I just said about the team that you need to build. If you did all of that, then you can get to the stage where we can, you know, do the ROI calculation with appreciation versus cash flow and all that stuff, right? just for us, I mean, our expenses for the year is $250,000, including mortgage, principal, interest, property management, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money. That's a big chunk of change, right?
Yep.
Yeah, sure, we make more than that in terms of money coming in, but the most important thing is you did the math right, and you have enough to actually just pay that. If somebody doesn't pay rent, you still be able to cover it. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep the property.
Right.
Do we want to talk about ROI?
Well, I think I just want to wrap. I don't want to get too crazy into all that. I mean, I don't think that maybe like 0.05% of the people listening will follow that. Maybe they will. I'm sorry if I'm insulting your intelligence and you can follow all of where Vince is about to go right now. Yeah. But I feel like we should just wrap. I feel like we should just kind of like button it up a little bit. And just kind of have maybe a summary here. Yeah. So let's do a summary. I'll do a quick here's my take, here's my summary on what it is, and then Vince, you can go for it and get probably way more in depth on it. So I would say this: if you're sitting on some capital and you're at least smart enough to understand that the best asset class by far in the history of mankind is real estate, then you're already ahead of the population. Maybe consider it if you've got the time. You're willing to roll up your sleeves. You're willing to get your hands dirty, and take some losses and probably lose some money at first. So if you've got the nest egg and you've got the drive and maybe dare I say the youth, which is part of what it takes, and you're willing to study and you're willing to just figure out how to put together the team, I would say definitely go for it and go in your backyard is what I would say for sure. Because there's just so much more. The risks are times 10 whenever it's out of state. There's just no way we'd be where we are if we did it out of state, like straight up. We would have just gave up. It's too much. You know how many times I had to drive up to Quincy? We always talk about Quincy in these podcasts, but it was just it's like the best book I've ever read was Buying Quincy, because you learned so much. But I went up there so many times. We did. You came up. And if that was an out-of-state property, that would have been a big problem.
100% we would have lost it.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, lost it for real. So I would say, level 1 is buy your own, stay in state. If you're not going to invest with somebody, if you're willing to just get into it and get dirty, I'd say go for it, boy. I'm behind you, rooting for you. But if you're an experienced investor, and you probably already know where I'm going with this, I would definitely lean in towards the more landlord friendly states in general, and I would definitely go for obviously a nicer area no matter where you're at, in state or out of state. But I definitely lean into out of state and diversify into different markets. I talked about this when we're talking about like investments in general. I like to diversify, even if it's real estate. I enjoy the fact that we might have something in Florida, Georgia, Inland Empire, Bakersfield. I like that. Because you never know. Maybe a whole industry just tanks, and now we're left, with our pants down. So having that diversification is also part of how I like to function as an investor. So that's my kind of take on it. Vince, you want to?
Yeah. So I would also, go off what you're saying. This is assuming they're a first-time investor, right? If you're a first-time investor, I would definitely say backyard, like 2 hours, 3 hours, somewhere you can drive to, right?
Yeah, max.
Also, it depends on your comfort level. If, you're $100,000, you don't really, you're like, it's fine, I can figure it out, it's fine. But, if the contractor says it's $18,000 to renovate your bathroom, what are you going to do? You're going to fly up there and then confront him? No, right. It's only $12,000, but he's just spent $6,000 on your flight. Yeah. Right, so it's very complicated. It becomes very complicated, I think. So for the first-time investor, it is more challenging to go somewhere out of state to be the first deal. You could definitely do it if you're decided that you want to do it. There's two reasons, right? People invest for cash flow, or people invest for appreciation. Rich people do not invest for cash flow. Let's just get it out of the way. Yep. The $20 I'm making from a property, each property, it's not making us rich, right? But we're going to collect like a cool $300K if we sell these properties, right? Mm-hmm. That's not cash flow. That's appreciation. Yep. So those usually don't go hand in hand. Right. So you want to buy at least with enough cash flow. There's a padding to cover the property. Right. You want to do that definitely, but moving forward, we will never buy for cash flow. We will always buy for appreciation as long as I can cover the property. Now I can go into debt probably another podcast, like debt coverage service ratio and all those things, right? So
Yeah.
that's my take.
Awesome. Yeah, it's so nuanced. As you were getting into it, I was like, oh my God, yeah, that is such a nuanced, like, case by case kind of thing, this in-state versus out-of-state. But in general, I think we knocked out overall the baseline. What I would hope that I would want to hear like 4 or 5 years ago before we got started, I would have wanted to listen to this podcast for that advice for sure. So I think we covered it, and I hope you guys got a lot out of it. If you did, please, like the podcast, subscribe, share it with your friends. We're trying to get it out there. And if you know somebody who's, a big dog and who's out there, crushing it and doing something with, real estate or assets in general, or just a successful investor in any form, reach out to us. My email address is andrew@onvinvestments.com. Vince is obviously vince@onvinvestments.com. You can always see us on our website as well, onvinvest.com, and shoot us a little message on that and check out kind of our portfolio. All of our stuff's on there. But yeah, and so if you're looking to get involved in any way, whether you want, someone to do it for you like us and go and make you a lot of money, cool. If you want to do it yourself, but, want some advice, we do consulting as well. And I can tell you without any reservations, not just because he's my friend, Vince is by far the most intelligent person I've ever met in terms of just in general, but real estate especially. I remember last night before we wrapped, you went into something like some crazy in-depth detail creatives. I don't even know what it was. That's how out of the world it was for me. And I was like, what is wrong with you? It is insane. So anyways, you can tag along on our train and take confidence in doing what we're doing, or do your thing. But either way, subscribe, like, and Vince, do you want to leave any last words for the listeners?
No, I think you covered it all. Catch us on the next episode.
Right. Thanks for listening, guys.